Hi, I've got a lesson to show you today out of the book of Matthew, but I want to show you with some images of the garden and what I got going on out here. Don't mind the dogs fussing around over there. So let me turn the camera around. All I've got is my cell phone today, so forgive me, I don't have anything fancy, but here we go. So you can see that tree. That tree is a peach tree, and it produced a lot of peaches, and obviously it's wintertime, so it's lost all its leaves. But it did really well, and I just got done fertilizing it a little bit, and I got to prune any dead branches off it a little later on. Over there you got some various vegetables growing. I got some vegetables growing over here. But this tree is quite a bit different than that tree. That's the avocado tree. Now at one time this avocado tree was roughly the same size as the peach tree when I planted it. So let's go over here and see. Put my hand around it and see. I can put my hand all the way around it so you get an idea of just about how big around, maybe an inch and a half or something, the trunk is on that tree. And that tree is probably at its tallest point maybe 7 feet high. Okay, this tree is quite a bit different. I planted it many years ago and it was roughly the same, but obviously you can see that there's no way in the world I could put my hand around it. I can actually climb up in the tree. And like the peach tree, it bears fruit, but this thing bears an enormous amount of fruit. Let me see if I can find some avocados in here. See them? So this produces tremendous amount of avocados. And this is part of the spiritual lesson, I think, that the Lord was giving us. Now this tree is a clementine tree, and you can see fruit all over it. When I planted it, it was roughly the same size as the peach tree. It's been here for a number of years, and we've taken good care of it, and it just produces fruit. It just explodes with fruit. And then over there we have an apricot tree, and I could show you some other trees of ours. That one's obviously, it's dropped all its leaves, but it does the same thing basically. It produces a lot of fruit, and I planted that one, and when we planted it, it was roughly the same size as this peach tree over here. So all of them are doing really well because they're in good soil. We put them in good soil, we made sure they were in good soil, and we've since fertilized them and taken care of them since. So I wanted to experiment with gardening. I'm just learning, so I went out and I bought these tubs. Let me back up a little bit so you can see them. I wanted to make some sort of self-wicking tub. I needed to get them up off the ground so that these jokers would not tear up the plant. Between that one and that one over there, we'd have no garden, and we kind of ran into that when I tried this last time. So I built the tables. There's one there. There's one over there out of just scrap wood, and then I built these tables as just kind of a workplace for me to plant seedlings and like that, and start seedlings. And then here's some seedlings I have left that have been, potted up a little bit, and I'm going to put them in bigger pots today. And then in the process of doing this, I needed to buy those tubs, which again you see over there, and I needed to buy potting soil. Or did I need to buy potting mix? Ah, that's the question. Okay, so some of these, which are growing super well, like this tomato plant right here, is growing in. You can see how easily I put my finger in it, how fluffy the soil is. And you see the little white things in there? Maybe you can see them. There's one there. That's, I think, perlite or whatever they call it. That is, and you can see a lot of them over here. See these over here? That's perlite. I hope it's not too blurry. All these little white things. That's potting mix, and potting mix is light and fluffy, and everything grows real well in it. Now you can see these plants over here. These are broccoli plants, and they're doing okay, but they're not doing super well. And if I try to stick my finger in this soil, even though it's moist, it's really thick, and that's because this is potting soil. So this soil is tougher to grow in than this soil over here. And this is something I didn't understand when I started. By the way, look at this tomato plant. And then look at this tomato plant. This tomato plant is in potting soil, which is very thick, very heavy, and harder for the plant to establish roots in. It's a lesson I'm learning, right? Now I can go over here, and I can share the same thing with you. And these carrots are doing pretty well, and those carrots are doing pretty well because they're in potting mix. Those tomatoes are doing really well because they're in potting mix. These broccoli plants are struggling because they're in potting soil. Same thing here. You got spinach here, which is doing pretty well. The spinach plants, I got one broccoli and I got some spinach over there. Those are all in potting mix, as opposed to, I think I got some spinach over here. This little bitty spinach plant, see this little bitty one right here? I planted it at the same time. Planted that one at the same time. They've got the same water, same amount of sun, everything's the same. The difference is these are in harder, more dense soil, and it's hard for them to get a start. All right, what's the lesson in all of this? Well, the lesson in this is that soil makes a difference. Whoops. Let's see if I can hold the camera like this. I'm holding it with my hands here to get my Bible out. So there's my Bible. And I think I may, if you don't mind, set the camera down, have it facing up at me. I hope you don't mind. Let's try that. So we'll try that, and I know you're getting a really good look at the ugly underbelly of my porch cover there, but let's see. So as I look in the book of Matthew, see if I can, let's see, can I prop that right there? Maybe that'll work. Let's see, let's try that. Oh yeah, that's better. Okay. So if I look in the book of Matthew, chapter 13, and I read out of there, maybe it's chapter 12, I don't know, let me look. I believe it's chapter 13, so let's look. Yes, it is. Okay, so let me get my glasses here. This is a great lesson for life, and it's one that you can learn from gardening or planting trees or whatever, because if you think about the society in which our Lord lived, it was largely agricultural, and so these folks understood the references. He says here, he tells a parable. It says, a farmer went out to sow his seed. As he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path. Well, if you think about a path, I mean, I could show you a path here. I think you saw one with one of my dogs. They run this path up against this fence over here, and it's just dirt. Now, I could plant something there. It's never going to grow because animals are tromping on it all the time, so I don't even bother. It's one of the reasons I put things up on the tables, is because the dogs will trample anything I put there. So if you have it on the path, it's going to get trampled. It's not going to be able to establish itself. It's not getting anywhere. So he says, as he was scattering the seed, some fell along the path, and the birds came and ate it up. Well, he could just as easily have said it scattered along the path, and the people came walking by and crushed it and killed it, and it didn't make it. And some of these seeds, like spinach seeds, but really carrot seeds, are incredibly tiny. And you don't really poke a hole and drop them in there like some people do. You just scatter them along. You make a little trough, scatter them along the top, and just do a little light dusting of potting mix, or if you like seed starting mix on the top, just to cover them up, and then you water them in, because those seeds are so small that they won't be able, they're not strong enough to break through the soil, either up or down. So if the soil's too dense, they won't make it. Well, you drop them on a path, forget it. They're not going to get anywhere. Then he says let's see, some fell on rocky places where it did not have much soil. Well, obviously, same kind of a problem. It sprang up quickly because the soil was shallow, but when the sun came up, the plants were scorched and they withered because they had no root. Well, I haven't showed you the ones in front, but I've got some in front that, because the soil is dense, they didn't really establish much of a root, and so they're getting scorched. And I'm actually going to have to pull some of the garlic out because it's just not making it, and I'm going to remix that soil and probably transplant one of these little tomato plants or whatever else I got, or the broccoli, some rapini broccoli like that. I'll put that in there because the others failed, not because the plant wasn't good, but because I didn't do a good job of planting it in soil where it would survive. Other seed fell among the thorns, where it grew up and choked choked. Let me do it again. Other seed fell among the thorns, which grew up and choked the plants. And so that's the worries of this world, obviously. Other seed fell on good soil, where it produced crop 100, 60, 30 times what was sown. He said, he who has ears, let him hear. Well, the disciples began to ask him, why do you speak to these people in parables like that when they can't figure it out a lot of the time? And he replied, the knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. And he explained why. Because whoever has been given, whoever has will be given more, and he will have an abundance. Whoever does not have Even what he has will be taken from him. This is why I speak to them in parables. And he says, though seeing, they do not see. Though hearing, they do not hear or understand. In them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. Quote, you will be ever hearing, but never understanding. You will be ever seeing, but never perceiving. For this people's heart has become calloused, sort of like my hands are calloused. And my hands are calloused because I work all the time. So I've got calluses on my hands. That's good on your hands, not so good on your heart. It makes your skin hard so that nothing can damage it, but at the same time, nothing can get through to that tender skin. Well, your heart needs to be soft and tender and allow God's word to get into it. If it's calloused and hard like my hands, forget about it. You're not going to get anything in there. For this people's heart has become calloused, he said, they hardly hear with their ears, and they have closed their eyes. Otherwise they would see with their eyes, hear with their ears, understand with their hearts, and turn, and I would heal them. But blessed are your eyes because they see, and your ears because they hear. For I tell you the truth, many prophets and righteous men long to see what you see, but they did not see it, and to hear what you hear, but they did not hear it. Listen then to what the parable of the sower means. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand it, the evil one comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. This is the seed sown along the path. The one who receives the seed that fell on the rocky places is the man who hears the word and at once receives it with joy, but since he has no root, he lasts only a short time. When trouble or persecution comes because of the word, because of Jesus, he quickly falls away. The one who received the seed that fell among the thorns is the man who hears the word, but the worries of this life, the deceitfulness of wealth, choke it, making it unfruitful. Kind of like, not like the trees back here. But the one who received the seed that fell on the soil is the man who hears the word and understands it. He produces a crop, yielding 160 or 30 times what was sown. And so with this, I really dig into this a lot, because what I've discovered over the years is that I've been all of these people. I've been the one that was sown on the path and never even noticed the truth, and it was snatched away from me. I've been the one where it was sown on the rocks and I was all excited about it at once, and then, it kind of fizzled out. I've been the one that was sown among the thorns. I still get there sometime, and then the worries of the world and like that will start to choke out my relationship with Christ. I'm trying in my life every day to be the one who's on the good soil. I want to produce a crop for the Lord. And, what does that mean? Well, it means different things for different people. Some churches will tell you, well, producing a crop means you've invited somebody to church, they got baptized, they became a Christian, now they're a member of the church. Well, I suppose that's true, but that's not the only fruit that you can produce. I mean, here we go. Let's go look at the trees again. Notice, if you will, that the fruit produced by this tree is entirely different. Let me find some here. Than the fruit produced by this tree. They're not the same. And oh, by the way, that clementine tree only produces fruit a couple of times, basically kind of once a year. I'll do it a couple of times. This avocado tree will produce about 200 avocados multiple times each year. So if I'm comparing, if I'm, let's just metaphorically, if I'm the citrus tree over here, the clementine tree, I'm smaller. I produce a lot of fruit, but I'm smaller. And I might be looking at my neighbor right here, this great big avocado tree, and I might be saying, gosh darn it, how come I don't produce fruit like that tree? What's wrong with me? How come I'm not the avocado tree? How come I'm this one over here? Have I messed up somewhere, Lord? Am I screwing up? What if I'm not the avocado tree and I'm not an evergreen tree? I only have fruit once a year. I'm the apricot tree. And now I'm standing around looking like this. And I'm thinking, gosh darn it, I'm a nothing. Look at the tree I'm next to. Look at that avocado tree. I'm worthless. I might feel the same if I were this little young tree, kind of like a young Christian maybe, and saying to myself, gosh darn it, I realize I only produce once a year, and I realize my peaches are big and beautiful when I have them, but wow, look at the apricot tree. It's so much bigger, and it's all that, and it's everything else. This is what we do to each other as Christians. This is what we do to ourselves. I might be saying, well, I'm going to go over here and I'm going to plant myself. I'm going to be this tough soil because I'm tough. I'm tough. I'm not a wimp. I'm going to be tough soil. I'm going to be hard to, I'm going to question everything. And it's not that I'm going to ask questions. That's a difference. There's a difference between asking questions so that I can grow and searching for the right answers and questioning. One's sort of like an inquisition, and the other looking for fault. I'm looking for something to be wrong, as opposed to trying to find what's right. I could be these guys over here. I could be this spinach over here if I wanted to be. If I wanted to be the great soil, then I could be this spinach. But if I choose to live like one of those crummy, tiny, terrible soils, I might be this little spinach over here. Now, this little spinach is actually in good soil, as you can tell. He just came up a little bit later, but you can see the spinach is coming up good. But like I said, that's the good soil. I made the mistake, and I planted the other spinach in crummy soil. And look what's happening, not only to the spinach, but to the tomatoes. They're just struggling to survive. So this is, I think, a very valuable lesson for me, and it's probably, I suspect, a valuable lesson for you. You can buy potting mix like this, but you can also get things that are soil amendments, and you can get fertilizer like that. They take soil and they make it into better soil. So, you can be good soil just by amending the soil that you are. And you do that with relationships with people who are godly people, by spending time with the Lord, by choosing to put in your head the things that are better rather than the things that are worse, by choosing to make the decision to mind very carefully what goes into your mind and your heart, because otherwise your heart can get hard like those people in the Bible. And anyway, I hope this helps. This is what I'm learning. I hope it helps you. Thank you very much for watching The Spirit's Voice.